Okay, I'm bored today, so I think I'm going to attempt to either blow myself up, blow this lawnmower up, or make it run on propane. I haven't used this lawnmower in over 3 years. I finally decided to go and use it and clean the carburetor all up and everything. Well, the float in the carburetor's got a hole in it, and it sinks to the bottom of the little float bowl there and just keeps filling the bowl up and flooding the carburetor, and it actually hydro-locked on its own fuel when I attempted to start it just now. So let's just get rid of the gas tank and drill a hole in the little plastic air intake right there just before the carburetor. Let's see if we can make it run on a small propane torch. It doesn't take much to remove the fuel tank on these Tecumseh motors. I mean, these little plastic tabs slide out of those grooves. Once you have it lifted out of the way, normally they have a little hose clamp on them. I don't use hose clamps on these small motors. I'll just put a tie strap on them and tighten them down. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that and plug that fuel line up. Alright, the fuel tank's off the rest of the way. I just went ahead and drained the rest of the fuel out of the bowl and everything. I'm going to go ahead and remove this whole little air box here and drill my hole and everything in it and get it ready. Went ahead and put, I think it was a 5/16 thread bolt. I just stuck it in the fuel line. I was going to actually look for one of my little vacuum line caps and put on the elbow, but I mean, I'm just goofing around anyway. This thing, I'll probably never use it. I'm just wanting something to do today. So, can't mess with the Jeep. So I'm going to just go ahead and run this off propane. And basically we're going to go from running off that fuel tank to running off of this small 1 pound canister of propane. This is actually my MAP gas torch head that I just have on here. I'm just going to unscrew this piece here. Run my little fuel line directly over this tube here, put a hose clamp on it or tie strap and see how it goes. Here's the air box removed, little air filter housing, and on this end, see if I can set it somewhere, difficult with one hand. I'm going to drill a hole right there in that end, and I'm going to run my fuel line in, and where it'll be at on the inside, it'll have a tie strap to keep it from pulling out, and I may put a tie strap on the outside of it so it doesn't flop around too much, but I really don't care. I just drilled the hole, you can see, and I'm going to use this old basically medical grade 1/4 inch tubing and put a couple tie straps on it to hold it in place and see how it goes. Fuel line is in place. I pulled it all the way through, put a tie strap on the end. Of course I didn't tighten it down enough to close off the tubing, but I'm just going to pull the hose back through until that's tied up against the plastic here, and then put another one on the outside, and that should sandwich it in good enough. Alright, I decided not to put the tie strap on the outside. It wouldn't sit flat enough against the surface here, and it was making it kind of flop over at an angle, but that should be good enough. I mean, worst case, I can put a little bit of RTV around here, but I mean, it's going to be pulling air in anyway. Most of it going to be coming through the filter. If there's a little bit of seepage around there, I really am not too concerned. It's not like the lawnmower is important, so let's just run it like this and see what happens. Alright, I've got the air box back on, mounted to the carburetor, and the fuel line is plugged and the fuel tank is off. And I was going to use my MAP gas torch head on a propane tank, but I forgot the MAP gas one. It's going to let way too much out. So I decided just to grab my regular propane torch head and gonna see if it will maybe run. So maybe it will, maybe it won't. Let's see if I can find somewhere to set the camera. There, found a good use for the MAP gas. Let's try it. Drag the propane just a little. Let's see. Well, it works. Now let's figure some kind of mounting bracket. I'm thinking an old plastic fire extinguisher bracket or something. We'll figure it out. Not the best installation in the world. I couldn't find my larger size fire extinguisher bracket. I had an extra one laying around out of my Freightliner. I was just going to screw it to the handle for the lawnmower and have it, looking fairly decent, but since this is just a basically playing around, goofing off type project, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just put one tie strap and some electrical tape to stabilize it. Ran the fuel line just with some cheap tie straps. No need in using my good ones. And like I said, all I did was drill out there and stick the fuel line in. Got a tie strap on the back side to keep it from pulling out. That's it. And it runs. I had to do a few modifications. Cut grass and ran just fine, but at the angle I had the tank, the vibration and of course the torch head that I'm using, it doesn't prevent the propane from splashing up in liquid form. So I found this old, never knew exactly what it was. It's out of my 03 Freightliner. It's like a thermos bracket. You always thought it was a fire extinguisher bracket, but somebody told me once it's for holding a thermos, and sure enough, a thermos fits perfect in it. And it is mounted right next to the driver's seat. But I just didn't feel like drilling holes in the handle for the lawnmower, so I mounted this board up here with 2 screws through existing holes, and then screwed this down to the board, and of course just laid the propane tank in there and put a tie strap around it just to keep it from bouncing. But worked fine like this. Mowed the entire fenced in part of the backyard with no trouble whatsoever. I did notice that every once in a while the valve would vibrate closed slightly, and I'd lose just a little bit of power, but just had to open that back up. And the propane tank does condensate and actually ice up a little bit, so that's alright. Like I said, this was just a little goofing around project just to see if it would work. There it is, my propane powered 4.5 horsepower Tecumseh on a Murray 22-inch push mower. I think it's a 98 model or 97 model mower. Well, thanks for watching.